Okay, the agenda of today's class is what is a VPC in AWS and what is subnet and what are the types of subnets and what is NAT gateway and internet gateway and route table and what is the CIDR block and the range of CIDR blocks and a default VPC and the different components in a VPC. Let me start with an introduction to VPC. So VPC is nothing but it is a virtual private cloud. It is a logical isolation section in the AWS where we can launch our AWS resources in a virtual network. So imagine you're building a house. The house is like your VPC. So a private space where you control everything inside. So inside the house, you can have rooms like the subnets and it is a logical isolation section and it acts like a virtual data center. You know any idea about the data center? Anyone?
Data center is where we have the servers and everything. Like we maintain the server or the environment where we have
in the physical server, right? In the
physical
physical, yes.
Yeah.
So exactly in the same way, we will host all our cloud resources in the cloud, all the services in the cloud. So there we have to have one isolated section that is called a VPC. This one, virtual private cloud. So we are going to launch all the resources, AWS resources in this VPC, like EC2 instances, subnets, and all. So and when it comes to in a layman language, we can talk about like it is a kind of we are building a house, and where in that house we are going to have a rooms, right? So like that we are going to have the subnets. That here the subnet is nothing but where you can place your resources like EC2 instances. Each subnet is tied to a single availability zone. And here public here we have the public subnet and private subnet, and where we can route the internet through internet gateway. So imagine we have a router inside the home, right? So to connect to the NES server, we need to connect to the internet gateway. Like that. So just imagine that in your house VPC, you have a rooms. Rooms is nothing but a subnets. Each room can serve a different purpose. Like public subnet is nothing but a public room. The room has a window and internet access, and then that allows you to see and talk to the people outside. In the same way, we have a private subnet. Private subnet is nothing but the room which doesn't have a window. It is more secure and more private, so nobody can look in from the outside. Example, like you have a living room where you invite guests. Guests are nothing but like here internet access. So in the private subnet means we don't have the internet access, so that it can be so that we can maintain the privacy here. Any doubt about? Any doubts in this section? Subnets. What is public subnet?
Generally, when we launch any EC2 instance or any other resources, where will they get into? Like, will it be in public subnet or in private subnet?
So usually we will launch, public subnet, private subnet. Usually we will launch our front-end servers. Front-end servers means web servers. We will launch for example, in the real-time environment, we will launch the web servers in the public subnet, where anyone can directly connect who are having the internet access from outside.
Okay.
So when it comes to databases or any sensitive information related servers, we will host those into the private subnet.
Okay, got it.
It doesn't, the private subnet doesn't have access. It doesn't expose to the internet. So first only we have to talk to the public subnet. Using the public subnet only, we have to talk to the private subnet. So
Okay.
that is how it.
So there is an association between the public and the private
Yes,
subnet.
it will be there using, yeah.
Okay.
And the next one is a NAT gateway. A NAT gateway, it allows instances in a private subnet to access the internet, but prevents the internet from initiating a connection with those instances. It is a network, and it stands for network address translation. So the use case is it will download the patches and updates and research. And this is not required actually. NAT gateway, it requires, just for example, in the real-time use case. So we want to talk to the private subnet, but we don't have the access from the internet. So in that case, we use like, so for example, you order a pizza from the through a delivery app. Through delivery app, the delivery guy can bring you pizza and without seeing what's inside your room. Like he don't need to contact to the, he don't need to contact you who ordered the pizza and something like that. He just delivered the pizza to you, right? That kind of, it acts like a any delivery app, kind of a Swiggy app. Simply what it will do, it will contact the public subnet and it will deliver here the request. And from the public subnet, it will communicate to the private subnet. It will reach.
No, I don't understand the purpose of this gateway.
Okay.
Can you please repeat?
If I cannot give the right example for this. Actually, so if I want to connect to the private subnet
Okay.
directly, if I want to connect to the private subnet from the internet, I do not have access, right? So first, what I want to do, so using NAT gateway, using public IP. First, I have to connect this one, public subnet, and from here, I need to I need to access the private IP.
Okay.
To access any of the server.
Okay. This is required when the public subnet is not
When,
exposed or it is not accessible, right?
when we want to access private subnet, it is required.
Means the public subnet is not accessible in that case.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay. So here the internet gateway. It allows the communication between instance and a VPC. So usually we will host the EC2 instance, right? To access that EC2 instance and to make the communication within the AWS resources, we need to have a internet gateway. It will establish the communication between all the whatever the resources we launched in AWS in that VPC. It will make the communication. So I can say like it is like a front door of your house where we can allow the traffic. Like when someone is trying to access the VPC from outside, so it is the front door. First, it has to hit the internet gateway, and then if internet gateway allows only, then only someone will come to the house like that. So it is the front interface. And a route table. A route table means it is a kind of a set of rules used to determine where network is directed. Like each subnet in your VPC, we have a route table. Route table means it's a kind of a direction where the specific service where it has to go. And if it is a real-time example, it is a like kind of a map for the each room. So kind of a map with the directions, we can say. And public subnets only, public subnets will contain the internet gateway. As I said, only public subnets will contain the internet gateway and it will expose to the internet. While private subnets typically route the NAT gateway. That means it doesn't have the, private subnets doesn't have the internet access, right? So it will only communicate through NAT gateway.
What is a route table? Can you
Route
please?
table, that's what. Route table is nothing but a we are asking the we are making the direction where you have to go. First, I mean when user hits some like how can I say? Okay, I mean simply your high. I mean the living room. We have a living room. Map shows how to get the front door.
Okay.
Like okay, the bedroom is map shows the how to contact the delivery service like a NAT gateway. Get things from the outside without exposing the room.
Okay.
Seems like it is confusing, right? For route table for you. So
Yeah.
we'll have a set of rules actually. Simply we can say how to, I mean, how the traffic should go. We will make the rules.
Okay.
Yeah. In the each subnet, for every subnet, we are going to have a one route table.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So cider blocks is nothing but a classless, I mean, it stands for classless interdomain routing, and it defines the IP address ranges. So when I say 10.0.0./16, so it will give the list of IP addresses. Like these are, I mean, you have to go through, I mean, the different article. I'll try to provide the article to go through it. And first of all, if I mention like if I mention cider block as a /24, it will give almost 256 IP addresses from here to 10.0.0.2, 10.0.0.255. We can use. So in the same way, if I mention /26, it will allocate 64 IP addresses. And also in /28 means the 16 addresses it will give. And if I give like /16 gives you, it is almost gives like 65,536 IPs. And after the class, I'll try to provide the cider block related information also. I mean, you have to go through the article about, I mean, if you want to learn about what is cider block and more. And this is enough for to create an AWS VPC and interact with them. So finally, the other components in the VPC, I mean, the main components in the VPC itself, here, VPC and public subnet. And I mean, we have discussed about the subnets and public and private subnets based on routing needs and route tables determine it will ensure the traffic routing within the VPC and internet gateways for internet access and NAT gateway and it to provide the internet access for the private subnets. Okay, and also these are other components, elastic IP, static public IP for instance or gateway, and later we will cover this one, EIP, and security groups. Security groups is nothing but it will control the traffic within the VPC. Imagine yes. And finally, we last one we have a NACL also. It is a network access control list. It is controls the traffic at the subnet level. Route table, I mean, we have discussed, right? Like it is a public subnet. It will route to the internet gateway. Public subnet always route to the internet gateway, whereas private subnet always route to the NAT gateway. If I want to talk to the private subnet, I have to go through network NAT gateway only. I'll show here the example. here is the VPC dashboard. This is the VPC dashboard. And if I click on VPC, I'm able to see the default VPC. It was created by the AWS. Whereas we can't, we should not delete this one. So if I want to host any, if I want to host anything, we can host in the default VPC, but for the customized one and whatever we created, there we are going to have a more control. So I'll show you how to create a VPC as well here. If I click on create VPC, here we have two types. One is VPC only and the other one is VPC and more. VPC only means it will create only VPC without subnet and all. So here I mentioned like the CIDR range 10.0.0./24. All are default. So it is saying 16 and 28. Okay. Yes. So it will just create an VPC, not any other components within this. So whereas, so if I want to create a VPC with more, VPC and more, here you will get all these VPC, subnets, route tables, network configuration, network connections, like that. So we can choose the number of availability zones. Availability zones, if any of one of the data center is not available, if one of the data center is down, automatically the other availability zone will take up the request and it will serve the requests. And here we can mention like a number of public subnets or private, and here the private subnets. So while you are creating a NAT gateway, while you are creating this VPC and more, please be cautious. So because a NAT gateway, it costs more. If you create and forget, it will incur huge charges. So better to not create a NAT gateway. If you create also, please try to delete immediately. So I'm trying to create this one. So it is going to create all these resources. Yeah, if I go here. Yeah, you can see here the information, how many subnets are created and what are the route tables and how it is interacting with the internet gateway and all. If you say, if I host, if I hover this here, it is showing like US East 1A and route table project RTP public and internet gateway project IZW. Hope you're able to see.
Yes.
Yeah, this is how we are going to, we will create the AWS VPC. So hope it is clear. So if you don't, if you have still doubts, we'll connect with Shankar and we'll clarify.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm stopping recording.